I'd love to start maybe with each of you introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about your educational journey before incarceration.
Okay. Hi, everybody. First off, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to be here representing all those still inside.
That's right.
So it is important to me to be that voice. My education before incarceration. Well, I was born in Puerto Rico, so went to my schooling there, but as Puerto Rico being a colony, the education there did a disservice, I would say. It was. I did notice, when I was in prison, that even though I went to school in Puerto Rico, in comparison to United States, I did know I was better qualified in order to, and even with the classes, even though English is my second language. So even though I felt that the schooling, I went to a Catholic school, and I felt that the schooling did not teach me certain things that I needed to know about the world that I inhabit, basically, as most schools or as most, educational system does nowadays.
Thanks. Devon?
I'm, like my colleague, I'm excited to be here today to see all these faces who contribute to me actually having the opportunity to get a second chance. So thank y'all for your support. My education actually, I have to thank my mother, God bless her dead. She lied and said that we reside downtown as opposed to where I grew up in Harlem. So that gave me the opportunity to go to school in District 2 as opposed to District 4. And the schools in District 2 were very, very good, per se, to say, for quality of public education, as opposed to the schools in District 4 that were dilapidated, and it was just night and day. So I actually did get a nice education through public school.
Okay, thanks. Jason?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Bell, from Ben Harbor, Michigan. As you see on my name tag, say Lake Michigan College. Something I'm very proud of as today. Going to prison, I had a 4th grade education. Even though I made it to the 8th grade, as I was speaking yesterday, my attitude caused me to be pushed from grade to grade just to get out the teacher's way. So going to prison was not just hard on me, but also my family, my children. And as I get on a journey of higher education as far as my GED, that was a big accomplishment for me. So when I got my GED, I noticed that I can achieve and overcome things. So in my strive for higher education, the blessing of the Vera Institute came about. And that's why I'm sitting up here today in front of you, to acknowledge the fact that second chances are possible. People do need them, especially the ones that's incarcerated. Yes, there's a mean for prisons. However, the overload of prisons is being caused by a certain type of attitude on both ends. And that attitude causes us to damage our perception to perceive what reality really is. So as today goes on, I hope that everybody get an understanding of that, and hopefully we can work on it as a whole to accomplish the what we set out to do. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let me ask each of you to describe the decision to enroll in college classes and then what the experience was like while you were incarcerated.
Okay, so I actually was gonna graduate from high school, but 4 weeks prior to my graduation, I got caught up in a situation in which I got arrested and ultimately sentenced to 18 years. So immediately upon going to prison, I got my GED, and this was in 2000. However, afterwards, it was no next level for me to go because that's all they offered. So it wouldn't be till 12 years later when I was transferred to Otisville Correctional Facility in New York that I had the opportunity to get involved in a program, which is John Jay's Prison to College Pipeline. From then till 2014, I remained in the program while still incarcerated. And the transformation was amazing. It was my first opportunity to have higher education, and it allowed me to see life through a different set of lens, and it actually helped me create an atmosphere in the facility in which people fed off my energy because they seen that I was doing something positive in my life, and I had the ability to transform many people and help them make the transition from being just a formerly incarcerated person into someone who can contribute to the community. So I'm honored.
That's great.
Excellent.
Ivelisse?
Yes. I was in my 20s when I committed my transgression, and I was sentenced to 15 years. So upon entering the facility, the prison, the apparatus of what prison is, I knew I needed to do something with my time. I knew to do something productive. I knew that I started, even though when there wasn't a college a program implemented yet, and the classes that were offered because of my parole eligibility, I was not able to partake. But when you have that hunger for knowledge, you will make sure that you will self-teach yourself. So we used to, I was housed in the maximum security. A lot of people with outrageous sentences, so they were not able to partake in the program, in the educational program of that time in the early 2000s. And what we used to do is that we used to just get books. We used to read them. We used to then gather in little groups and basically build and it was different type of books. I wanted to understand, and I think that's what made me like, we need something here. I needed to understand why I ended up in prison. I needed to understand why, even though this is gonna sound probably weird for some people, but it was almost as I knew how to do time before entering a prison. And to me, that's not normal. So I needed to understand how was it that I was socialized into normalizing that it was eventually I could have ended up in prison. So I needed to understand that. I needed to understand why when I went in, most of the faces were of colored people. I needed to understand all of that. I knew that something was inherently wrong, but I just didn't have the names for it, the theory, the concept. So I needed to put that all together. And that's how I started reading. Sometimes the books were not let in, but I persisted, and we built it. We were building ourselves and our intellect and understanding and passing it on, because that was the beauty of it, that you have to, once you know, you just have to tell the one in the cell next to you, like, this is what is going on. And once the college classes started, that was a whole different enlightening. It was a whole different, it was life-saving. It was life-saving, and it was what I needed. It was what I needed, yes.
Jason?
Let me get this out the way first. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do that if you can. Being up here with the Secretary of Education, that's kind of that's kind of cool. Courage, I think, is defined as the quality of mind and spirit that enables one to face difficulties with firmness and without fear. that's what I noticed about myself going through this process. Because coming out of one stage, going into the next, you have to have courage. You have to have heart. You have to have patience. And these are the things or the qualities that I found within myself going through the process of higher education. Being in prison for 12 and a half years, let me rewind real quick. I was 16 years old when I was first sent to prison. I got out when I was 19. However, that attitude back then was, okay, this is give me street credit. This is give me an opportunity to poke my chest out and make people understand that, oh, I don't play games. That's the wrong type of attitude. When I was sentenced, when I was 23, I was sentenced to 12 and a half years in prison. And that was the time where I wanted to tell myself that it's a better you inside of you. And as we discussed yesterday, the journey from having a GED to college, it was approximately 6 to 7 years later when Vera Institute came into the prisons. So, as Devon said, GED was the highest thing that I could accomplish. So, to hell with school again. And this was the attitude that I had. But when college came, it was something about it. And the story behind it was that it was only done for 2 counties in Michigan at the particular time. And when everybody was going to hear the presentation of it, we didn't believe it. So I actually got up and started walking towards the door. But then something told me to sit down and listen to the rest. And I'm thank God that I did sit down and listen, because now I'm sitting on the panel with the Secretary of Education. with the desire to learn more, with the desire to be successful and do something with my life. So once again, I got to keep reiterating the fact that this opportunity was not just a blessing for me, but for all of us, and for hopefully for those to come. You look on the cover of your panel, I mean, the paper that they passed out in the folder, those guys that's on the front, I was just with them. That was my cohort. So for me to come out of that piece of paper to sit on the stage is a blessing, and to represent those who are still incarcerated that want something better. I represent not just myself, but I represent them too. So.
Thanks. Let me ask you all to talk about the transition back, leaving prison and coming back home. What was that transition like? What were some of the obstacles in that transition?
This can take a little bit. Nobody leaves prison unaffected. I consider myself a very strong woman. And I met plenty of strong, amazing women in there, but I was not prepared mentally, perhaps psychologically, to the changes. And yeah, there was a transformation, there was a shift of the narrative in my own head, but I was not really, I guess I didn't know what to expect. You are so happy, you're so excited that you're finally completed your sentence, but coming out was what I think what I envisioned to be the challenges were actually not. I thought, first of all, I did 13 years of my 15-year sentence, and with a stipulation of 5 years parole immediately. I thought parole was going to be a big challenge, just because that's what you hear. I thought family, I guess since I transformed myself, I guess there was a transformation in my family as well. the community, I left, and even though I left when those gates opened, they broke water into a rebirth of me. It was the new me. But my community did not change. The things that affected my community were still present. Parole did not become a conflict. He was very lenient, works with me because he sees I do the right thing. I make sure that everything is correct. And it was more of challenges with family, with the housing. For example, I left and I went and I stayed with, I'm originally from New York. I'm a proud New Yorican. But my transgression was in New Jersey, so my mom lived in New Jersey, so I was stipulated to New Jersey, but she lived in a housing facility. So I stayed there for a little while, and it was gonna be a problem for me to be there, so I did not want to get my mother evicted because she had somebody, a parolee. So of course I did not want to. I was a nomad. Only a few months ago, I was a nomad for a while. As far as employment, everything ran a background check. Even though I was very open, and it's a reality. So of course I had to sometimes get 2 jobs in order to make it. And months later, I started my first semester in Rutgers. They offered me a work study, and things started little by little. And it was still hard. It was still hard. I was still working third shift, sometimes sleeping 3 hours, but we have to do what we must do. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And it is still challenging, and it will be. Mm-hmm. But I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Devon.
So my reentry has been, it's been a journey, a struggle, but I've persevered. That I can't hide my truth, so I might as well just spit it, right? So upon my release, I was more or less duped and ended up getting shot, right? And immediately, basically 3 minutes after my release, I ended up getting airlifted to the hospital. So my initial excitement, my joy and everything was knocked down immediately. You know, I had big, grand plans on saving my people that's still inside, uplifting my people that's home, and I just was drained by an envious person who was seeking prior revenge. So with that, psychologically, it really messed me up because here it is, I stepped into a new world after 15 and a half years and get shot, right? And my support team was there for me, you know, from soon as I woke up, you know, they took me to the room or whatever, and within hours, my family was there. My support team from the prison college pipeline was there. So I knew that I still had support. And if it weren't for that situation, I can't honestly say that I would be here right now, because initially upon my release, I didn't think I would be able to go straight into school because I needed money, right? Needed finances. But being physically restricted from doing so, it more or less put me in a position to go right into school, you know? So I got released in October 2014, and by January, I was enrolled at Hostos Community College. And that was a challenge because I couldn't write. Physically, I was still recuperating. I had to do physical therapy, so I got shot in my right arm. So I have plates and screws in there, so I can't really write. But I still succeeded academically because I knew that I was the voice of many people. And with that, I became a peer mentor, student success leader, and ultimately, I graduated last month with honors. So this is why I wear these. This is why I'm up here rocking these medals, right? Because this gold medal is from the Criminal Justice Department at Hostos Community College, who have honored me, and they've seen the work that I do in the classroom, uplifting my peers, my students, and in the community. So I'm just honored and blessed to be here.
Oh, man,
That's
that's
great.
good. That's good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In prison, they got the bathroom. So they got the sinks that you have to push down the button and the water run. I come home, and I'm going back off what Bibi said about everyone is psychologically messed up in some way. So I go to the bathroom one night while I'm at home, and I get to using the bathroom, and I go back to the room, and I'm hearing something. I done left the water on. I'm so used to it going back off on its own. So, but the transition, and in some cases, it can be dangerous also, because you ain't where you was, and you ain't where you intend to be. So in transition, things do get lost. And if you're not prepared to go out here into society with a certain type of attitude, then that which you have established can also get lost. So as I returned back to society, there was obstacles, and like every day is an obstacle for us, because we don't know when we leave out our house that we want to make it back home. So I think everyone goes through that particular thinking process in some cases, especially me. I'm talking to as myself. But when you in a position to go further in life, that motivates you. It motivates you to the point where no matter what gets in your way, you're going to do what you have to do to be successful. And in one sense, that attitude came from a negative perspective. But as knowledge influences perception, the more that you learn, the more that you can see differently the outlook of your life. I have a better perspective on my life, and I have to give credit to education, because education, it put me on the path of wanting to know more and more and more and more. So the transition, it was difficult because I had to go to one county, and that didn't work out, so I had to get transferred to another county. And I had started my college pursuit in Grand Rapids, Michigan, going to GRCC. I did my first semester there, and however, my parole plan or placement was interfered, so I had to move to Benton Harbor or back to Benton Harbor. And now I had to start school in the fall, and even though I'm working and stuff like that, but I want to go to school. I want to make a difference and give back. And that's why it was so important for me to make it here. Me and my fiance, we drove. We was coming in. I'm gonna get in no airplane, but we drove 10 hours, and we stopped at the rest area. We slept for a couple hours, and we got back on the road because I knew it was something important here. And as I stand up here and I look at everyone from up here, it's amazing. So my transition is not just for myself, but it's for the help of everybody in this room. It's for it to be a part of what's going on in this room, and I'm very proud of that. So the transition, the trial, the tribulation, they necessary. They necessary to develop something so firm, a foundation that's so sturdy that it can't be broke down by anything or anyone. So transition, I just welcome it, and whatever get in my way, I just deal with it and keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would like to add that transition, Yes, by any means. Yes. That transition is still a learning process. There's people that have been years out and they are still transitioning or resettling. And I feel it is my responsibility as a formerly incarcerated person for those that come out, give them a little bit of guidance, because I noticed that when I got out, even though I feel I'm very autonomous, I make my own decisions, I've been very diligent with that. When I got out, it was so much structure in the prison that I was like, okay, what now? I remember going to Rutgers, and Terrell was like, okay, Bibi, I'm gonna come and look for you in the front of the building and guide you in. It was like my vision was distorted. What do I do now? It was almost like I needed to take back my decision-making process. Like, oh, hold on, like it's me now. Because the prison is so structured, it does that to you.
Can I ask each of you to talk about your goals and how the education that you have gotten and are getting fits into those goals, your personal goals?
Yeah. But first, one more time, Ms. Heather Gay and Todd Butler. Heather Gay is Michigan Department of Correction. Todd Butler is the Dean of Art and Science at Jackson College. My first FYS class, first year seminar inside the prison was instructed by Todd Butler. Todd reached in me and grabbed something up out of me. We talked about it yesterday about how the inner critic, and when we faced with things that is hard, we tell ourselves, you know what, it ain't no sense of doing it anyway. Well, he showed us methods and ways to defeat that. And so I like to send a shout out to those two individuals. And with Mr. Heather Gay, when things was going wrong as far as with the college program inside of Michigan Department of Corrections, she was always there to fix it. So a lot of that, I just wanted to give a shout out to them and tell them thank you so much for being there for us. My goal, I want to be a fitness education trainer. You know, I like working out. I ran fitness class in prison if I was dealing with diabetics and showing them ways to better exercise and things of this nature. But I want to own my own business. You know, I want to own my own gym. I want to be able to assist people or help people that feel uncomfortable with themselves. And I know it's a part of a psychological thing also. And I'm not a psychologist or anything. However, I was a facilitator for a psych inside of prison for 5 years. And the magnitude of groups and how we have conversations with one another and how we build relationships inside of prison. Friend is defined as one attached to another by respect and affection. If there's no respect, there's no friendship. So there had to be respect inside of whatever you're doing as a whole. So towards my goal, I just, and it's short goals, you know, but those goals that lead to an ultimate goal. And I don't know, maybe I'll be the Secretary of Education one day.
I like that. I like that.
You know, there's no limit. And I was telling Ms. Gay and Mr. Butler last night, failure is not an option anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't say I made a mistake. A mistake is unintentional. And nothing that I do from now on is going to be unintentional. You know, I think things through, and I try to make the right choice and make the right decision, because I know the decision is the sum total of my life. So I'm moving forward, and hopefully, and I'm gonna see y'all again, though. You know, I'm hopefully I'll be here next time too. Thank you.
So when it comes to goals, I'm all over the place. I simplify it by saying that my goal is to continue to inspire others, to motivate people to create social change, inspire my community. I'm currently taking a screenwriting class at Columbia, so I do have aspirations of being a film writer, and yeah, I'm just taking it one day at a time, and just honored to be able to have a second chance, you know, because that doesn't come to many. And one of the things I've been blessed with is the opportunity to be a part of an organization in which was very beneficial. A lot of people don't have that. So this is why this convening is so important, because the more access people have to be a part of programs such as the Prison to College Pipeline, the more great faces you'll be able to see. And maybe next year this whole panel will be filled from here to the wall over there, you know, with success stories. So
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Goals, plenty of them, and I'm always adding more. I guess I can be a little bit of an overachiever. But yes, I want to change the narrative and the way we look as a society, not only formerly incarcerated, but those incarcerated, specifically women. There's specific issues when it comes to women incarcerated. So art, I love all that. I love the activism and art connected. I love to advocate. I'm passionate about social justice, and I'm passionate about eliminating the inequalities, the reproduction of inequalities, building communities, all of that it entails, starting with my own family. So yes, and education is what's gonna give me that, and it is giving me that opportunity, that space and visibility.
That's great. What advice would each of you give to folks who are either launching a educational program in a prison, or expanding one, or refining one? What advice would you give them about what makes an educational program successful, and also what kinds of supports need to be in place as folks transition back?
I think we talked about a lot yesterday. Communication, for one. There had to be communication on all ends. Some things is not going to work out the way you wanted it to work out. You know, so you have to be open-minded, and for most importantly, be consistent. Things sometimes change so much because of, once again, attitudes that people have. You know, you have a lot of attitudes of people don't want Pell grants in prison. People don't want second chances in prison. They believe that you in prison, that's what you did, and you don't deserve nothing more. You know, some people in prison doesn't believe that we should get a free education. And that was one of the issues that me personally had to go through, because you have correctional officers saying that, well, you don't deserve a free education. I had to pay for mine, or I had to pay for my kids. And it's your opportunity to stay focused. And just, if the program was built around recidivism rate, then maybe if you think about it, you'd rather have me out there destroying your community, or would you rather have me educated to go save a community? And this is the attitude that we both have to look at and have. So I think for the most part, being able to be open-minded, be consistent, and have communication amongst all parties that's involved in the college or pathway to prison, post-secondary education. So consistency, communication, patience, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks.
yeah, those were key words that you used. I'll just add to that, the consistency is what inspires us as students while incarcerated, right? So when people consistently come and show support, right, that does a lot for the psyche of an individual who's amongst a bunch of loneliness is overwhelming in prison, right? And as a formerly incarcerated person, I can attest to having that feeling of wanting somebody to be there, right? So when the program comes and consistently show their faces and show that they're dedicated to helping us make that transition into society, it does wonders for the morale and ultimately helps liberate many. So consistency will definitely be like the key word, because as he said, it's going to be trials and tribulations, but you know, as long as people stay consistent and communicate with the students, then success is ultimately going to be there.
Thanks.
I agree. Prison can be an atmosphere which can be hostile and non-conducive. So I think a sense of community within the prison. What I noticed with taking the classes with the New Jersey STEP, it was that it taught us in a community sense, we were able to identify ourselves as students. I no longer became the prisoner such and such, the number. I was a student. I was a student also. There were inside and outside students. And that exchange was life-altering, because you have the ideas of people coming outside. You're not only amongst your peers within the penal community, you have students from outside, and you are that exchange was beautiful on both parts. So I feel that the sense of community and consistency with the classes. Of course, you know, within the prisons, there are gonna be plenty of obstacles, but yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all for inspiring us, for sharing your experience with us, and for giving us a sense of what's possible. And thanks for the conversation. Let's have a round of applause for our panelists.